You're watching Scriptease. In today's episode, we'll be breaking down the climactic argument scene from Marriage Story. You can expect mature language and spoilers for the entire film. Last episode, we looked at how to format dialogue while examining different uses of the Riley. So I figured why not take a deep dive into a dialogue-heavy scene to see how all these techniques come together. Plus, it was a great excuse for me to watch and rewatch a fantastic film, Marriage Story, written and directed by Baumbach. Marriage Story follows a couple, Nicole and Charlie, navigating their way through a divorce, trying to keep it amicable for the benefit of their son, Henry. The process unearths the schism in their relationship bit by bit, pulling lawyers into the mix as both Nicole and Charlie fight to keep Henry while pursuing their career ambitions. You really should watch the film if you haven't already. It's not the filmic fare that I usually go in for, but I loved every second of it. For those who haven't seen it though, I'll give a quick summary so you have some context for the scene. Nicole wants to move home to LA and pursue a career in TV, while Charlie wants to stay in New York where he directs a theatre company. Both Nicole and Charlie are shown to still have very strong feelings for each other and their son, but there are some fundamental issues in their respect for and opinions of one another that have been alluded to throughout the film. After finally going to court and being party to a mudslinging match by proxy between their lawyers Nora and Jay, Nicole visits Charlie to try and pump the brakes on this whole process. This forms the basis for a 12-page scene that is almost entirely dialogue, bar a few moments of action that stand out even more on the page due to their rarity. The scene begins with an awkward interaction as Nicole arrives at Charlie's rental apartment. Charlie, somewhat formally, ushers her in. They still feel guilty from what the lawyers have said about them, but neither of them are willing to openly acknowledge that right off the bat. Nicole feels particularly guilty after seeing the small and mostly bare place that Charlie is forced to reside in during their divorce proceedings. Baumbach captures this first in dialogue. I have unfiltered water, beer, and some juice boxes. Of course, the beer is for him and the juice boxes are for Henry. It's the one gleam of happiness in the place, and Nicole recognizes this. She looks at his rental place. It makes her sad. Of course, Nicole has still come here to make a point, but seeing what Charlie has been reduced to softens her approach. Furthermore, this interaction sets the juice box as a symbol for Henry, a reminder of the permanent connection between them. Charlie moves off screen here, the intention being to show the distance between the two. Baumbach expands on this idea when talking about the set design.
Here, you have two people who can't see each other talking to each other, but we can see both of them. And it just seemed like so much of the movie at this point is this together and separate thing that's going on between them, and this could illustrate that.
Placing OS here demonstrates that even at the script stage, Baumbach had a clear vision of how this scene would play out spatially, and certainly in interviews he states as much. Then, combining the juice box and distance ideas, Charlie re-enters the shot and hands Nicole the juice box as the two argue over who gets Henry for the Friday night, essentially giving up possession of Henry. Charlie is irritated by Nicole's lack of flexibility, as indicated by the Riley coldly. Given the number of concessions that Charlie has made throughout the script, this line would usually be read as a simple acknowledgement or understanding on Charlie's part, but the Riley here makes it clear to the reader that something in his tone can be detected by Nicole, and escalates the situation instead of diffusing it. This underlying tension ramps up as Nicole cuts Charlie off abruptly, indicated by this M-dash. We feel like the two might actually have an out-and-out argument when Charlie passive-aggressively says, "It's not only this one night, but fine," but Nicole instead changes the topic. In the film, this is physically signified by Nicole turning away from Charlie and the camera, but I like what the script does here, with Nicole turning her frustrations onto the juice box instead. She opens the straw and uses it to puncture the hole. Nicole brings the topic back around to Henry's well-being. This common ground seems to calm them down, even laughing together. In terms of the scene's structure, this also allows the two to broach a more difficult topic by resetting their mindsets. Nicole gets to the reason why she came over. She doesn't want an evaluator to assess their parenting and invade their home lives. Throughout the scene, Nicole is driving the action. She has a clear goal, and Charlie acts as the obstacle. These roles are clearly delineated in this next part of the scene, where Charlie is constantly on the defensive, acting obstinate and bitter. He barely engages Nicole's attempts at diplomacy, just saying, uh-huh, and when he does respond, it's to point out how awful this situation is for him, with unhelpful comments like, "I thought I paid for Nora," and "I've just agreed to direct 2 shitty plays." Baumbach addresses this friction directly with another Riley, trying not to take the bait. Nicole is trying to keep things civilized, but Charlie's anger is evident as he refuses to play along. For example, when Nicole jokes that she'd never get custody, there's a pause while she waits for Charlie to agree. But instead, he's silent for a moment, resentful of the fact that Nicole is going to end up with custody of their son. This entire first section of the scene acts as an introduction to the central question. Can Nicole and Charlie settle their differences without lawyers? But more than that, this first section foreshadows the inevitable answer. No. We can already see from Charlie's passive-aggressive behavior that he's holding back his anger, that he needs to vent his feelings. We also see how this wears on Nicole's patience, and we're sure that she can't endure his attitude forever. This setup is essential, as over the course of the next half a page, Nicole and Charlie go from laughing and agreeing to try and patch things up, to verbal assault and picking at past wounds. Charlie makes a completely unfair comparison between Nicole's desire to live in LA and purchasing a piece of furniture. This false equivalency points at the exact issue in their relationship. I don't know, honestly I never considered anything different. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? These two lines encapsulate the entire point, that Charlie felt like every time he did something for Nicole's benefit, it was a favor to her. Her success in theater, his commitment to her during the relationship, and even Henry himself. Charlie feels like he made Nicole happy, but he's only aware of that because it felt like such a chore to keep Nicole happy. Once again, Nicole resists the bait and tries to reset the conversation, moving from their history onto the here and now. But Charlie is stuck in the past, in past discussions and past agreements. Baumbach drives home these points by using capitalization and typographical emphasis. Knowing he would come back to New York, and I don't know when we said it, but we said it. Charlie has always felt like his thoughts were the couple's thoughts. It's just like Nora said.
So it's a deal when it's something you want and a discussion when Nicole wants it?
Nicole rephrases this sentiment here, saying,
"You can't imagine desires other than your own, unless they're forced on you."
Okay. This controlling behavior is obviously symbolized by Charlie's role as a director, but it's also shown in his need for cleanliness around the house and his frustration when trying to teach Henry how to read. Charlie continues to derail the conversation, with provoking statements like, "I needed my own asshole," and "Nora was worse," when discussing the awful things their lawyers said. Nicole wants to move past the ugliness and the name-calling. Let's both agree both of our lawyers have said shitty stuff about both of us. But the dam has been broken now. Once they've both started their name-calling, the emotions flood forth. Nicole approaches the conversation from the viewpoint of saving Henry, and while her intentions may be pure, they can come across as a guilt mechanism. And now you're going to put Henry through this horrible thing so you can yet again get what you want. I feel like the last part of this sentence speaks volumes about Nicole's true take on the situation. It's not really about Henry, it's about not letting Charlie get his way yet again. Both Charlie and Nicole attempt to weaponize Henry for their own purposes. Nicole makes out that Charlie doesn't care about Henry's wishes. I was wondering when you'd get around to Henry and what he actually wants. Charlie calls her on this, pointing out that Nicole uses Henry to justify her own opinions. When Nicole says that Henry likes it more in LA, Charlie quotes Jay by saying, "He tells you because he knows it's what you want to hear." The fact of the matter is, this argument isn't entirely about Henry. Both Nicole and Charlie are projecting their feelings about their marriage onto Henry, and that's why every time they try to take a step forward, they're pulled back into the past. Nicole finally caves and hits Charlie with a low blow, comparing him to his alcoholic father. This causes an outpouring of emotions on both sides, words that they don't really mean, but words that were dying to be said. They finally get to vent their emotions, bursting forth with bitter words of resentment. "Sometimes I would look at you and just feel so gross. I felt repulsed when you touched me. You're a slob. I picked up after you like an infant. The thought of having sex with you makes me want to peel my skin off." It's raw. The facade of civilized conversation is gone. The mini monologues in this scene are so satisfying because they pay off all of the built-up tension between Nicole and Charlie. Charlie's tirade about Nicole wanting a voice, for example. Because you need to have your voice, but you don't want a voice. You just want to fucking complain about not having a voice. The repetition here drives home the point, while the capitalization makes clear his acerbic delivery. Nicole tries to put in her own pot shots here about Charlie being selfish, but Charlie overwhelms her with his unchained rage. Nicole is forced into silence and cut off from speaking as Charlie rants about how he felt blamed for everything that went wrong, about how their marriage was joyless, about how he felt like all he did during their marriage was do what she wanted to do, but that she wanted so much so fast. Finally, he punches the drywall and says,
"And you're fucking winning!"
And really, that's what this comes down to. Nicole is winning. That means she's right and he's wrong. But it's not just about points on a scoreboard. Charlie feels like his emotions are being invalidated. If Nicole is right, then Charlie's the villain, separating a loving mother from her son. But he loves Henry too. Like he said to Bert earlier,
"He needs to know that I fought for him." He'll know.
Charlie's father has been alluded to as an alcoholic abuser. He was a bad father, and Charlie doesn't want that same label. I have a theory about the subtext to Nicole and Charlie's divorce, and I haven't seen this theory presented anywhere despite searching through countless videos and articles, but if my theory is correct, it explains a lot about the issues in their marriage. I think Henry was an accident. Hear me out. Numerous times both Nicole and Charlie reference something that Charlie didn't want. Nicole says Charlie can't imagine a desire other than his own unless it's forced on him. She also says he's fighting for something he doesn't even want. Of course, we know in this scene, Charlie is fighting for custody of Henry. Then, in this tirade from Charlie, he says, "You wanted so much so fast. I didn't even want to get married." Is it possible that Nicole and Charlie got married because Nicole was pregnant with Henry? This would also explain why Charlie feels so strongly that he needs to show how much he cares about Henry. He's insecure about not wanting him in the first place. We also know that Charlie is somewhat obsessed with his career, putting almost all of the family's money back into the theatre. Given where his financial priorities lie, would he really have wanted to support a child at that time? It seems unlikely. Now, in fairness, all of this is pure conjecture on my part, but there just seems to be too many hanging sentences in such a well-crafted exchange of dialogue for there not to be some backstory which explains it all. Nicole ultimately sees that Charlie's selfishness in the relationship was a result of him not loving her as much as she loved him. And certainly this seems true. Their relationship was one-sided. Charlie dictated what they did together, and Nicole went along with it because she couldn't bring herself to voice her opinions. She blames Charlie for shutting out her voice, but the only one who can give Nicole her voice is Nicole herself. And that's what this divorce is about. Nicole finally taking a stand, finally embracing her voice. The scene ends with Charlie breaking down, overwhelmed by the vitriol. And despite all they've said to one another, Nicole still comforts him. There's still deep caring there, but both the reader and the couple themselves now knows that they will never get back together. I think the reason Charlie breaks down here is because he's finally accepted that. This whole time Nicole was pushing for the divorce and having to convince her family that it was real this time. Charlie, on the other hand, was always saying that they would sort out the separation themselves. And maybe he hung on to the hope that in doing so they'd get back together, as they had done numerous times before, at least according to the other actors in their theatre. This argument scene has so much going for it. It pays off all the emotional setup of the film in a way that is both blunt in terms of verbal and physical expression, but also subtle in how it alludes to the wounds in their relationship. It's also got a great hook for the viewer. Who do you side with? When I first watched the film, I was totally with Charlie, and then reading through the script, I felt more on Nicole's side. After breaking the script down though, I don't even want to take sides. I feel sorry for Nicole, a girl who wants so badly to express herself but couldn't find the will to assert what she wanted. I feel sorry for Charlie, a guy who tries so hard to control his life and takes every failing so personally. But that's kind of the point. It's not about winning or losing. It's about a couple realizing the effect their faults had on their relationship and reconciling their differences for their kids' sake. It's not about them falling apart, it's about remembering why they were together. After all, it's not divorce story, it's marriage story. All of this thematic and character development is served by the technical skills of the dialogue. Typographical emphasis guides the reader through how key lines are delivered to explain where the character's priorities and sensitivities lie. Riley's help to clarify meanings and roll actions into the dialogue to maintain the conversational flow. Ellipses and end dashes are used liberally to show how Charlie and Nicole cut one another off or hesitate to speak their true feelings. Dual dialogue is used extensively both to exemplify the couple's conflicting opinions, but also to demonstrate the pace of the scene. Baumbach's technical skill allows the realism of a divorcing couple's argument to hit us with its full force. We should aim to craft our own scenes with this level of emotional vision and technical execution. Good writing and good luck.